and Development. And today is going to be another special day with another special mentor that you have in your class. And that's Amit Lal, who is a very young drone innovator. And he started pretty early in his life. And I would say if he would have been in a university, he would have completed his PhD already. And we are so proud to have him in our team. And he has worked with hundreds of drone entrepreneurs and helped them design and develop their drone solutions. And he has worked on more than 53 distinct drone types. And he has also actively worked in disaster relief in Odisha. And he has received awards for that as well. So he will be here today sharing his passion with all of us about drones. And the topic for today is anatomy of drones. So over to you, Amit Lal.
So, hello everyone, this is Amit here. I work as a lead for design development at India Flying Labs. So, talking about India Flying Labs and design development. So, people generally get confused what design development is. It is not only related to CAD designing or designing models, rather, it is a very wide property of designing where you can convert a simple idea, a simple concept to, let's say, something existing to another application based project and then do the POC for it. So that's how design development works, and that is called design framework. So I work for that. Other than that, I work as a pilot. I have been into, let's say, piloting for after cyclone damage assessment, for BMC, for sanitation runs, for, let's say, surveillance, and every other, like mostly other industrial factors. Other than that, I have a own consultancy that is called AeroBuild India. So in AeroBuild India, we promote the Build in India concept, and then we try to do whatever is possible in India with whatever is available in India. My concept has been like, okay, let's support whatever we have. If we don't have, let's try to develop. And then again, at last, we can have an option to import or, let's say, to get it from outside. So that's how it goes on. I've been into this ecosystem from last 6 years, and like started as a very beginner, directly buying a drone and then crashing it in let's say 15 minutes, and then I saw like my whole 30,000, 35,000 going into smoke, and then let's say by chance or by luck, I developed it. Like I repaired it and it worked well. Then I started my journey, and then again it kept on growing. And then like life comes with like life has every experience that you want, and you can like pursue it anytime you want. So that's how it went on. So today I'll be presenting on the anatomy of drones, talking about why anatomy of drones is important. Because let's say you see hundreds of drones, millions of drones, you say there are different kinds of drones. So you should understand which drone is meant for what and why. It is not just like a drone is meant for all the works. It may be a great drone for photography, but for mapping, it may not be the best drone. It may be the best for payload delivery, but let's say for long range runs, for long endurance runs, it may not be the best one. So depending on that, the anatomy is the best thing that can make you understand from the beginning. So that's how like I'll be explaining you. So starting with the slideshow. If you're getting my screen, please let me know.
Yes, Amit.
Okay. So as you can see, the very first slide it shows anatomy of drone. You see many different components opened up and kept in a line. So like there is a top frame, the bottom frame, the mediocre frame, and then there is the sensor unit. It has the bottom sonars and stuff. So like this is not exactly like we are not going to open up drones and stuff. We are going to study what drones are made up of. What is the all the basic components that go into building of a drone. Talking about the main components of a drone, we first have a frame. Like our body has a skeletal framework. Without the skeletal framework, let's say our lungs, our heart, everything won't be in our place. So similarly, we have a frame for a drone. Let's say, for example, this is a Mavic Mini. This whole component that you see, the major portion of the drone is a frame. It is the thing that holds every other part in it. Then talking about the motors, why motors? Because motors are just like the limbs of a drone. Without the rotation, without the like movement of a motor, the drone won't work. Like that's how drones still now are working. Maybe in the future there will be concepts where there are, let's say, motorless drones. There are maybe jet drones and stuff. But presently, every like not every, at least 99% of drones are working on the principle of using motors for creating thrust and then operating them. Electronic speed controllers, as motors are there. For example, you have a regulator for your fans. You rotate the knob and you can adjust the speed. But for every time I want to adjust the speed, I cannot reach to the drone and adjust it. So we have something called electronic speed controller. We can give a data through a transmitter, through a remote. In layman's image, language, you can say it as a remote, and the remote transmits the data to the drone, and then to the flight controller. The flight controller gives the data to the speed controllers, electronic speed controllers, and then they make the motors faster or slower as per the need. Flight controllers. If you're present yesterday, Captain Yash Patel had talked about flight controllers like it is the brain of the drone. I totally agree. It is the brain of the drone. Like we say, aero models and drones, those are different because aero models don't have the capability of decision making. So when decision making comes in, flight controllers are the things that make the decision. They know what is the state of the drone, what is the attitude of the drone, and then to make changes, to make to give changes to the direction, to the attitude, to the altitude, to every other thing. These flight controllers play the role. Propellers, as you see, like if you can see in any other drone, if you see something like a fan-like structure, that is a propeller. In many places it is called a blades. In many places it is called fins. But fins are not properly propellers. The like tail sections of the propellers are called the fins. Then we talk about transmitter and receivers. So why transmitter and receivers? Because as I said, like every time you cannot go to the drone, connect it to the computer, adjust something, and then put it to fly. So to remotely control it, you need a remote controller, something like this, or maybe a bit different. So those things are called transmitter and receiver. So as you have like for example, my phone is acting as a transmitter, and your phones are acting as a receiver. So whatever I am saying is getting transmitted to you, your phones are receiving it and then displaying that to you. Battery, because to power up a drone, we need to use a battery. We can use a wire also, like tether drones are there, but in a general convention, we need a battery. Talking about positioning systems, there are GPS systems, there are other things which help in positioning. We'll talk about it later. Telemetry, as in like these are data transmitting telemetry. So they give you the live data. We'll talk about it later again. So going to the next slide, you can see various frames there. The first one in the top, you see it is called a hexacopter. Why hexa? Like we'll basically talk about a little about nomenclature of drones. For example, you see there are 6 arms in it. So 6 arm gives the name hexa, and then there are 6 arms with copters. So it is a hexacopter, 6. The next to it is a quadcopter because there are 4 arms. The very next to it is not a monocopter, it is a helicopter. A monocopter will be something which has just one rotor, but it helicopter has a rotor that gives the main lift. The other rotor is a stabilizing rotor at the back, the tail rotor. The one that you see in the bottom one, a person is holding a bird-like something that is called an ornithopter. So ornithopter refers to a bird-like drone. Let's say you like giving a context to an Indian movie called Uri. You have seen something like called a Garud drone, and that was used. So what this Garud drone did is like it was just like a bird, and from a distance you cannot easily judge whether it is a bird or a drone. If you have a let's say satellite, a satellite won't be easily able to like intercept such a small thing. Then the next one you see on a fingertip is a mosquito drone. So I've been lucky enough to see something called a mosquito drone and a dragonfly drone. Uh, these don't have a like specific cause, rather these are used as swarms. Future prospect is a very bright thing for them because these are going to be used for surveillance, for spying, for other stuff, and they have a whole lot of future. Like in the present generation, we see rapid development and then reduction of size. So reduction of size is the best example seen there. The next you see there is something called a fixed wing. So fixed wing is something just like an aeroplane. What is the difference between a fixed wing drone and an aeroplane? Just one is unmanned and the other is manned. That's it. They gain the lift in the very same ways. Okay, the drones may be a smaller version of those, but the aerodynamic principle work the same. The quanta effect remains the same. Even like how they generate lift, these also remain the same. They use a plane surface, that is why they are called aeroplanes. So as we are doing anatomy, so we'll be talking about different parts of the frame first. You see these black and white kind of stuff. These are called arms. So why arms? Because these are just like our arms. You stretch a person and lay them in the form of an X, then they look very pretty much similar like a drone. So similarly, these are the arms. These arms take on the motors on them, and they keep the like motors away from the body, so that the vibrations, the air pressure, and then any other changes in the magnetic field, because motors have magnets, the magnetic field can affect the flight controllers. So these are kept away from the center of the drone and the body. The next you see is called a bottom plate, this one. So why a bottom plate or a base plate is important? Because that is the thing that is going to take most of the electrical work of the drone. Like this, in like this is not an open drone, but you can see you have frills here. So why these frills are there? Because the microcontroller is here, the microcontroller or the flight controller, and it needs air to cool down, because it is doing so many calculations, so many data processing at like at seconds, at intervals of seconds or nanoseconds also. So it needs to cool down. Similarly, there are two sensors here. These are the sonars which help in like landing. These are optical sonars. Similarly, the base plate takes most of the work, like electrical part of it. And even you can see there are solder joints here. So what happens is you can solder on your ESCs to the base plate. You don't separately need to wire them up to the battery separately. Then comes the top plate, the other plate that you can see. So what the top plate does is it covers the drone from the top, just like this one. It covers it from top. Next, we are talking about motors. So, like, I guess all of you have seen motors in different scenarios. Let's say talking from your fans to actual drones to planes to even let's say like toys in which they have motors. So these kind of motors don't actually work for drones. You need to use the specific kind of motors. So the one in the left in the golden color is called a brushless DC motor, but technically it is the AC induction motor, three-phase AC induction motor. The other in the like frame is called a brushed DC motor. So what is the difference between the brushed and the brushless one? Okay, like the name suggests, one is having a brush, the other is having like doesn't have a brush. But what is a brush again? So something called a carbon brush is used in the commutators of the drone. When it rotates, it changes the direction according to that. But what happens just because of friction, the motors like they give the axis rotates in this way, and so because of the friction, these brushes run out, and then they cause sparks. So these are not good for long runs. So that's why mostly you find these in toy drones. Topping for like the best example will be Stello. It is pretty much like visible that these motors are used, the brushed ones. Anatomy of a motor. So a motor primarily consists of two places, the stator and the rotor. So this thing that you see, the motor bell, is a rotor. Why it is called a rotor? Because it rotates. The other is called a stator. So what stator does is it has like the wire. There are three wires running it. As I said, it is three-phase induction motors. So it has three wires running into it. The three wires then produce magnetic field simultaneously. For example, let's say the one where magnet is mentioned. So then let's say this is a north, the next is a south, the next is north, the next is south. So these occur simultaneously, one after other. When these are placed in front of the gray structure that you see on the stator, so the stator gets magnetized because of the coiling. So if like when there is a magnetic field and you apply a right hand thumb rule, you can get the direction of the current and then you can find the polarity. So similarly there are like for every second there is a particular frequency set. So for that many times these plates change their polarity, and that is what causes the rotation of the motor, the bell. The rotor rotates, and then there's this called a shaft. So what the shaft is, the shaft takes the propeller adapter. So what happens is the adapter takes the propellers on it. The motor doesn't take the propellers directly. Then there are bearings, because as we know, if we put the shaft directly, there will be friction. To like friction is and like it is something that it is a necessary evil, I will say, because you need a firm grip, but then you don't need rubbing. So that's why these bearings are used. Then something written about stator height and the stator width. So you see something called a 2212 motor. So the 22 states the stator width, and the 22 and the 12 at the end states the stator height. Topping our electronic speed controller. So you may be seeing that it is EKE, because that is how it was like when it was meant, it was named at this thing. Then it became electronic. So what these are is like these do the work of changing the speed of motor. How they keep, like as I said, they have a particular frequency. So they can increase the frequency, they can decrease the frequency. And then the amount of voltage given, the amount of current given will be also proportional to the polarity of like to the power of the magnets that are going to be induced, the electromagnets. So that is the work done by the electronic speed controllers. This is how the like block diagram of electronic speed controller looks like. It has a capacitor so that like we don't burn up the ESC, because sometimes the motors may pull a huge amount of current from it. Other than that, we have a microcontroller. There are MOSFETs. So what these MOSFETs do is like they give the particular data that is needed. They take it from the flight controller, they give the relevant data to it, and then they act upon the instruction given to the motor. Talking about flight controllers, as I said, they are the brain of the computer. So talking about the brain, they do all the work of decision making. For example, you need to say your drone is at this height and you want to take it to this height. So you, one way is like you manually put it there. Other way is like you have to give a command. So when you give a command, the command is not directly something that like the flight controller understands. For example, let's say talking about a programming language, C++. So it understands C++, but you do not give the data in like the command in C++. So what you do is you do like you do the throttle up in a flight control like in the remote controller, or let's say the transmitter, and then this goes there. How it happens? The flight controller reads the data from the receiver, then acts upon it. Okay, so like relatively, I should be here. I have given the command, but I am here, so okay, I'll move it there. Talking about propellers, like the one of the most important components, because without these, gaining lift is different. Bladeless drone is a conceptual thing. Like we have a Quanda effect drone, we have a bladeless drone, those things. But these are like conceptual. They haven't been case proven till now. So most of the drones again use blades, or let's say propellers. So when talking about propellers, you see different type of propellers. There are self-locking propellers, there are hub propellers, there are hubless propellers. For example, on this Mavic Mini, you see these are hubless propellers. They directly attach to the motor top, to the rotor. But there are different propellers that you see, they have a hole in between. So they go upon the stator and then you screw it up on the top. There are different configurations, for example, 2 blade, 3 blade, 4 blade, 5 blade. And then comes 6 blade, 7 blade, 8 blade, even 12 up to 12 blade, Dodeca that we say. So 12 blade propellers are there, but generally we see 2 blade, 3 blade, and 4 blade. 5 blade is also an exception. Okay, now talking about transmitter and receiver, as I said, you need to give your data to your drones. You need to receive it again from your drones. So these transmitters do the work of transmission. For example, I'm sitting here, I'm presenting something and I'm speaking. So these things are happening because my phone and my laptop are acting as a transmitter. They're taking the data, they're putting it, let's say, over the internet. It is then getting connected to your phones and your like laptops or your screens. There it is, your phones and screens are acting as receivers. So whatever is transmitted from here is getting received there, and you are able to see it. So similarly, these things do the same. Transmitter and receiver can be of various types. There can be video transmitters, they can be audio transmitters, they can be sensory data transmitters, they can be just transmitters for controlling. So sensory data, as its name says, they will be sending sensory data, like the data that is collected from the sensors. There are video transmitters, they give you the video output. There are audio transmitters, for example, wireless mics are there. Or even let's say when I'm calling you from my phone, that is also like a let's say the audio transmission, and even walkie-talkies, ham radios. So these are examples. Now talking about battery, battery is the powerhouse. Like if I show you the battery of Mavic Mini, this is what it looks like. It is a two-cell lithium-ion battery. Lithium-ion, remember that. We generally see lithium polymer batteries being used, and there is a huge reason for that, because lithium polymer batteries are a convention. Like they have been used from a long time. They have a very proven use case. They are hugely energy dense, and then they suit the demand. Like your drones need a huge amount of current. So that is what these batteries can provide. These little batteries are, let's say, they can provide the same thing, but these are pretty heavy because of the casing and stuff. So you can see various numbers written on it. For example, this 10,000 mAh. So what is 10,000 mAh? It is the data, like it is the rated capacity of the battery. Rated capacity, as in like, for example, I have a bottle that is of 1 liter. So that 1 liter is the rated capacity of the bottle. It may be little different. There can be dimension, like the rated dimension is 1 liter, but then there can be like actually it may be different. Similarly, the 10,000 maybe 9,999, maybe 10,001. So in ampere hour, like generally when you talk about ampere hour, it can be 10 ampere hour. then you can see something called a voltage, 7.4 volt, 11.1 volt, 14.8 volt, 22.2 volt. So why these are like these distinct data? Why not 5 volt? Why not 6 volts? Why not 7 volts? Why not 9 volts? So because these generally the drone batteries that we have, they come for a rated voltage of 3.7. 3.7 volt is the nominal battery average battery voltage. Like that is the storage voltage. So talking about two cells, it becomes 7.4 volt. Talking about three cells, it becomes 3.7 into 3, that is 11.1. Four cells, 14.8. Then 22.2 is six cells. Now, fifth, like the five cell is missing, one cell is missing, two cell is present. So one cell is presently like exception. Very small drones fly on one cell. Five cell sometimes becomes like, let's say it is, for example, you have something like a two cell or a three cell. Next four cell is fine because they have a very like rated capacity is different for each of them. But talking about a six cell, you need a very huge battery. Five cell and six cell don't have a huge difference, but the weight for a six cell will give more power compared to a five cell. That's why six cells are used. Then 12, 16, 18, 20, 24 they have been used. Then you see something called a 10C written out. So what the 10C is, it is the discharge rate. So what the discharge rate says is how much discharge the battery can give. What is the like maximum discharge it can give? So how can you can calculate that? Your rated capacity in mAh has to be divided by 1000 to give you the rated capacity in Ah, ampere hour. So 10 into 10, it is 100 amperes. So 100 amperes is the discharge rate, like maximum discharge that the battery can provide. Positioning systems. So talking about phones, drones, planes, cars, everything has got a GPS. You use Zomato, you use Swiggy, you use Google Maps, you can use Rapido, you can use Ola, Uber. Most of these apps, like not most of these, rather all of these, and then many more apps use GPS. So what GPS stands for is Global Positioning System. Now talking about global positioning system, there are hundreds of satellites, and these forms constellations. So how they work is like something called a trilateration method. So to explain that, I'll show you. For example, take this as a arbitrary line connecting two satellites. This another, and this is the other. So these three satellites are forming a triangle. You take a arbitrary point anywhere inside the triangle or nearby the triangle. Then in this arbitrary line, they can have a mutual distance from the line. From here, they have a mutual distance, and from here, they have a mutual distance. Similarly, trilateration works. They take a mutual distance from all the three lines, then all the three satellites, and then they give you a precise data. It may not be the exact data, but it may be very precise. Talking about telemetry, as I said, telemetry is something like when you use your drones, they may go beyond visual line of sight. Sometimes they may be in visual line of sight, but you cannot talk to your drone. Like, for example, you are with your friend and your friend is just like 10 meters away from you. So if he has any problem, he can speak it up to you, but your drones cannot. Either you will have to see the drone and understand, or else you need to see the data that is happening. For example, your drone is rapidly falling. So you have to see the altitude data and see that, okay, it is suddenly decreasing the altitude, maybe it is crashing. For example, you see the pitching. So that means it is rapidly going to front. So to see all these data, other than that, to see the GPS coordinates, to see the compass like the compass data, to see the AHRS value, to see every other thing, these telemetries are used. Talking about payloads, okay. So drones without payloads are like very rarely used. Now, like payload may like sound like something very complex, but it can be as simple as this thing as a camera. So your payloads are of various types. They can be a drop box, they can be a delivery box, they can be a camera, a wireless camera, a thermal camera, a LiDAR image. The first year that you see is a LiDAR image. I'll show you a few examples of LiDAR images. Just a second. Okay. So if you can see here, okay. So if it is visible to you, this thing is what a LiDAR is doing. So what is LiDAR? LiDAR is just like a sonar, but it uses light instead of ultrasonic sound waves. Instead of ultrasonic sound wave, it uses optical waves. So there are hundreds of laser beams going and striking on a surface. when the strike that is being the image is being captured. So after hundreds of striking on the surface, you get a complete cutout of the object, or let's say of the surface. After that, there are different layers on which they are overlaid and then compared, and then you get something called a final image that you can compare with your lidar image. This is how like the lidars look like. This is a matrix carrying the lidar. Again, this talking about thermal drones. See, so from the image, you can infer that there is a building under fire. These people are being seen in the red, like the imagery. You can see the red demarcations. These are the people because they have a heat signature of their body, and that stands out in front of the like other things instead of the like. For example, I'm sitting here. My body will have a different heat signature than compared to the wall to compared to the chair. So similarly, they are being seen in a distinguished way, and this is how like they are firefighting. Here is a like you see surveillance footage of a drone, and that is a thermal image. So in night, generally the visual cameras, the normal daylight cameras, they cannot see. So night vision, thermal imagery, these are like correlated. Night vision is something like the limited amount of light is magnified to get an image, but in thermal you use the heat traces, the heat signature of the bodies to see it. Topic about drones with drop boxes. So you see these drones, they have a drop box. So what a drop box can do is like it can take something like a payload, maybe a bomb, but like that is not a thing that we should be talking about. So maybe something like a delivery package, maybe something like medicines, maybe something like food, maybe something like any other thing that can be transported. And then these drop boxes carry the data, carry the payload. Other than that, there are ambulance drones. So ambulance drones are like very special, but somewhere they are again the same drones because they have these payloads, the like life-saving payloads, which are like the critical care payloads. But again, these are nothing special compared to like normal drone. Just for example, not this drone, but a enlarged drone, and then you attach few additional things with it, and then it can do the work of ambulance drone. Now, getting back to the slides. Now, access of a drone and physics of a drone. So you may have seen drones hover at a place. So what happens is you see there are four motors. The conventional drone that we call a quadcopter, they have four motors, right? So not all the four motors rotate in the same direction. Why? Because let's say, like you apply Newton's law. So what it says is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if I try to turn left, if I try to turn right, whatever like I take the like I have a force doing that. So similarly, there will be equal and opposite reaction on the surface. So the like the floor is not moving. That is why I'm able to get the momentum. But if it is free to move, how can I get the momentum to that? Like how can I shift the momentum? Similarly, in case of the drones, this happens. So if, for example, all the four motors rotate counterclockwise, so there will be net force created in the clockwise manner because motor one will be producing something, motor two will be producing something, motor three will be producing something, motor four will be producing something, and all four in the same direction will make the drone rotate in the other direction. But to counter that, we have diagonally same motors. For example, this motor and this motor are diagonal motors, this and this. So they rotate in the same direction. This and this, they rotate in the same direction. So ultimately, you cancel out the momentum. Talking about drones, you may have seen monocopters. Monocopters generally are very unstable because again, they don't have a counteracting rotor, so they try to turn it. Bicopters, they don't have so much issue because they have two things, like two motors counteracting each other. Tricopters again have a little bit of issue with stability because the third in the like tail, the tail rotor, it is mounted with a tilt rotor so that it can move to counter for the rotation, and then that causes a little bit of like instability. Then talking about quadcopters, like example of a quadcopter. Why don't we have a pentacopter? So pentacopter is there. We'll talk about it just in a few minutes. So talking about the pitching motion. So pitching motion means the nose goes up or down, and that causes the motion. So this is the pitching motion. This is the pitching motion. Positive, negative. So what pitching motion says is the back rotors, the two rotors at the back, they speed up. The two rotors at the front, they slow down. So that causes this to be a bit like this. And then to get the component of the force was getting diverted directly down. Now it is producing an angular force. So the angular force, there is a horizontal component, there is a vertical component. The vertical component is keeping it stable at the height. The horizontal component is giving it a motion to move front. Talking about the yaw, this is called a yaw. Like there are three axes of a drone. The one from the nose to the tail is called a longitudinal axis. The one from, let's say, this side to this side, passing through the center of gravity is called a lateral axis. And the one going top to bottom from the center of gravity is called a vertical axis. So to yaw, you are yawing against the vertical axis. So yaw is attained by, again, the rotation of the motors. So for example, to maintain it the same height, if I reduce the rotation of two motors, other two have to speed up so that it maintains the same height. And then to maintain the same height, the other twos are like spinning faster. So they are creating a better, like more force compared to the other two because they have slowed down. So that will create a motion like this, and that is called yaw. Then rolling, this is rolling. About the longitudinal axis, the motion is called rolling. So what happens is these two motors speed up, these two slow down or remain at the same speed. So this type of motion is attained. And this type of attitude gives the rolling motion. And to like increase the altitude, that is say throttle. So this increases in altitude and comes down in altitude. So you ultimately give the like the compound of all the four motors. They give a total of maximum thrust. And for example, you have 250 grams of weight of the drone, and the motors are producing just 250 grams. So it will remain in the same place. They are producing, let's say, 251 grams, so very slow motion to the up. They are producing 300 grams, fast motion to the up. They are producing, let's say, 240 grams, slow motion towards the down. So this is how the like motions are attained. So before concluding, I will talking about a few design specifics of drone. Now it is like something that will be interacting with all the participants. So is there anyone like who can say why these are like why these UFOs, UAVs, RPAS are called drones? Any idea? Anyone?
Amit, do you want to stop your presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Ananya.
Okay, they are called drones because of their buzzing sound, and
Exactly.
male
Like
bee is also called drone.
exactly, a male bee is called a drone. So these produce a typical buzzing sound, and that is very much comparable to the sound produced by a male bee, and that is why these are called drones. Very like exact answer. Can anyone say why generally we find the cameras at the front? Cameras at the front, and then mostly the batteries go at the back. Any like idea on it? Anyone? Okay. So what happens is, like conventionally, what we see is these drones have a camera at the front. So that is a weight. Let's say it is having a center of gravity here, where it can be balanced. So it is not getting balanced because of the camera at the front. We put a battery at the back, and then it is somehow concentrated at the center of the gravity. So to counter that, most of the drones come in this design. I'll show you many examples. So most of the drones that you see either have a camera at here or something like here. But like if you can like imagine, most of the weight of the camera is at the front. To counter that, the battery goes at the back. So if you can, like, if you say, okay, they are like nose heavy and the tail heavy, but why not left and right? Because we are talking about the axis. So when the axis is balanced, so the center of gravity remains constant. See this example. This is a Mavic, and here you can see the camera at the front, and it again takes the battery at the back. This Mavic Mini, no, this is a Air 2, and similarly, camera at the front, and this is the bottom view. You can see this camera is at the front. And this thing that you see is a gimbal. So what gimbal does is it stabilizes the camera footage. Okay, now talking about conventional drones, like this is a very good example to show like how drones can go par convention. So this drone is called a Parrot Anafi, and it has a free drone, free camera to like 360-degree panning. Because let's say in this drone, this camera cannot look up because it has a cover at the front, so it has a restriction at the front. But these type of cameras, they can have this type of motion totally 360, not 360, rather 180. So to like, for example, you may think, okay, so it is doing this much, then why it is not capturing the propellers? Because it has, like, you can see the shape is just like a H. Instead of a perfect X like this, it is in the shape of a H, so that the cameras, like the camera doesn't see the propellers coming in and out. Another example I'll show you. Like one of the biggest manufacturers in India, and like, okay, this is another example. So it is a Ninja, and you can see two propellers to the bottom and two to the sides. So what happens is you have two type of configurations. One is a plus configuration, one is a X configuration. So in an X configuration, you need to keep your camera away from the propellers of both the sides. But in a plus configuration, this is the only thing that is coming to the front. So in this side, let's say if I keep the camera here and I keep the rotor up, I don't get the camera view there. So that's how these type of drones are working. And even if it is a like, okay, now the question may be, okay, in most of the drones we find the rotors at the top, and why we see rotors at the bottom also. So when these type of rotors rotate, this frame, this arm, they take up some of the pressure of the air, and they obstruct the airflow. So they decrease the efficiency by a very small fraction. But in like, let's say in very small spaces, that can be a very big value. To counter that, we use rotors at the bottom, because if you are like studied aerodynamics, the top surface has a low pressure, the bottom surface has a higher pressure. So that's how like these gain lift at every center that happens, and then a total force is created that creates the lift. So to keep it bottom, we don't have the obstruction at the like the air obstruction to the airflow. So these are like some of the design specifics that I wanted to talk about. Even talking about, let's say, delivery drones. So what delivery drones are? There are heavy lifters with good endurance, not the highest possible endurance, but good endurance. So why heavy lifters are different? Even if you see this thing, this is not a heavy lifter, but you can see four rotors, the fifth one here. Okay, I was talking about pentacopter. So what you see are like five rotors. So can we call it a pentacopter? Technically, yes, but conventionally, no, because conventionally there is nothing called a pentacopter. Rather, this is a Y plus 4. So there are four rotors, and then there is the fifth one. So 4 plus 1 comes to 5. 5 is a penta. So this is a technically pentacopter, but again, this is the 4 plus 1 Y. This is not a Y frame, rather H frame. So this is a VTOL kind of drone. What VTOL is like, basically, it will take off vertically, then it can fly as a plane directly. It doesn't need to do the pitching stuff directly. It can do it as a plane does. So that was about like all about I had to present. Now I'm open for questions.
Yes, Sushant. Sushant, you may go ahead. You're still on mute.
Am I audible?
Yes, Sushant.
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay, okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Amit sir, for explaining about the components and technical aspects. So my question was, so if you want to make a low-cost drone from scratch, where should we start from, and what are the initial
See,
steps we should?
first of all, the frame is the basic component that you need. As I said, it is going to take up everything. So the
Okay,
frame needs to be something that is sturdy. So you can build your frame from wood, from steel, from carbon fiber, from ABS, from plastic, from every other entity. But you again need to keep in consideration whatever you are using, because let's say you use some steel like this, which is flexible. So it will bend and it will create bad oscillation. But if you use a steel bar, a square bar, it will be something very sturdy and lightweight also. So similarly, these type of things you can keep in mind. Then comes motors. So initially, if you want to use, you can use cheap motors. Like these motors are not having the best quality of magnets. They don't have the best like configuration to sustain your thing. Even they are not always balanced, but still they can like work well. So talking about scratch, basic things that you can build is you can use Arduinos as flight controllers, but I will not suggest that because there are like bugs in it, there are flaws in it. But again, you can use it. Like that is a possible scenario. Frames you can manufacture yourself. Motors you can take low power motors and modify them. But again, I'll suggest to go for specific drone motors that are brushless DC motors or three-phase motors. Then ESCs can be simple configuration ESCs just like Simon K, and you can go for complex ones like D-Shot and stuff. D-Shot 600, D-Shot 800, D-Shot 1200, and other ESCs. And then propellers can be as per your choice. So that's how like building from scratch begins. And then you can go on adding sensors, you can adding on GPS, adding compass, adding camera, adding gimbal, making a bigger frame, adding a bigger battery. So that's how you're going to like increase things that you want.
okay. Thank you, Amit. And I also wanted to ask that what the software skills we need beforehand to design the drone and to manufacture it and further steps. The initial steps. I want to.
See, initially, to design a frame, it can be as simple as drawing it on a piece of paper. You can use CAD, you can use AutoCAD, you can use Fusion 360, you can use any other software if you want to build a like if you want to do a 3D modeling. But the simplest, as I said, you can draw it on paper. You can cut it down, you can assemble it. Like to get the 3D view, you just need to like make it. After that, you can start building. Other than that, to let's say build like to complete the thing, you need to program the flight controllers. So there are different type of flight controllers, and they come with different configuration softwares. Like Mission Planner comes for something that is very much related to the Pixox system, to the ArduPilot systems, to a few of the Mamba systems, to Matic systems also. Then there are clean racing things. There are Beta Flight. There is like OmniFlight. There are many others. MU Flight also. So these are like dependent on your flight control that you choose. But you actually don't need huge coding skills. Rather, you need to know which configuration works best, which value works best, and that's how it turns up. If you like make something out of scratch, let's say from you design the flight controller, then you need to have good programming skills because you need to program the flight controller to program the microcontroller to act as a flight controller.
Thank you, Amit, and
Hope it was clear.
that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Good evening, Amit sir. This is
Good evening.
Sushmita, and sir, my question is that you introduced some kind of sensors. You were talking about like lidar and thermal
Yeah.
sensors. So, sir, is there any kind of possibility from with the help of drone we can monitor underground activities with some kind of
Underground activity, as in like underground bottom, like under the foliage or under the ground.
like underground, like is it like a tunnel monitoring or some kind of cavity
Okay,
monitoring?
okay, okay. See, there are drones with GPRs. GPR is a ground penetrating radar. So those are huge drones that carry the GPR units. And as you like exactly said, tunnel monitoring. So I have seen the use case of tunnel monitoring. What happens is, for example, this is a tunnel. These drones have a fixed line, like line of flight. So they fly at the fixed line, and then they have a GPR that is connected very close to the ground, and the GPR keeps on like recording the data, and then that is used for the tunnel monitoring. Other than that, there have been few cases where these are used for like gold search and stuff. But in that case, there are complex systems, for example, to measure the specific gravity, to measure the soil quality, to take samples of soil, and then again to process the things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Azad sir, you can go on. Okay, there's a question in the chat. How will you eliminate the torque effect? Okay, so as I said, like there is a net momentum that will cause the torque effect. For example, you have four rotors. Talking about even ones, then I will talk about the odd ones. So if you have four, six, eight, you can have diagonally same but opposite in the nature. For example, these are diagonally same. These two are diagonally same, but these two are opposite in nature, and these two are opposite in nature. So ultimately, they cancel out each other. Now, question may arise: if I keep these two same and these two opposite, so what will happen is they'll either have a compression effect or they will have an expansion effect. That is bad for your frame. Other than that, talking about the odd ones, for example, let's say there are four rotors here, and I add a fifth one here. So these four are counteracting each other, and this fifth one, let's say, is a counterclockwise motor. It will create a momentum in the clockwise one. So I can mount it in a servo with a tilt rotor so that it can tilt to some degrees. So with the tilt, what happens is you have a component of the force that is tilting. So what happens is the turning effect can be cancelled out with the tilt rotor mechanism. Even there are thrust vectoring methods, but thrust vectoring is like a bit complex and generally not found in multi-rotors. In fixed wings, you can generally find the thrust vectoring. Any more questions? Ahmed, about bigger size drones, civil. What sizes can be used in trial approvals? Okay, so DGCA doesn't give any size specification. Presently, they have called the weight classification. Nano is up to 250 grams, then micro is up to 2 kgs, then comes like small category which is up to 20 kgs, then large, then extra large and stuff. So what happens is they have given specific on the weight categories. So if I have a drone like this is a 250 under 250 grams, this is 249 gram. If I expand it to, let's say, this much big size without increasing the weight, so it will again remain a nano. If I have a small drone, but I sometimes like I put a heavy thing on it and it goes above 250 gram, and it is still a very small size drone, like you can compare it to my palm. So that will again make it a micro sized drone. Okay, now where are these bigger drones used? Mostly bigger drones means more power. So either you need to travel to a very long distance or you need to lift heavy. Agricultural sprayers, lifting heavy cameras, heavy sensors, these things, they need a huge drone. For long range deliveries, they also need a huge drone because they need to carry a huge battery. Hope it was clear. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
X-shaped and plus-shaped configuration are almost the same. Then why X-shaped configuration is more popular? Like,
See, what happens is when you have a X shape, this is almost like a perfect X. So what happens is, uh, like there is no angular momentum created. They cancel out each other to the exact zeros, like almost to the exact zeros. So they don't have a net momentum left. But if you like, if I, for example, decrease these angles to something like this, so what happens is they are not exactly canceling out each other. So there is a net momentum left. To counter that, your flight control needs to process more data and give a better countering measure. So what happens is like they need to again adjust the RPM, the rotation per minute of this like the motors, and then that will create the like stability. So that's why X shape is more popular, but H gives you more space to work in the frame. For example, if this is a H-shaped drone, so here you'll have a better space to work upon. So you can mount multiple things on it. and in X shape you have like better stability in the basic runs. With the best PIDs, both of the drones will work the same. What PIDs are? They are like the P stands for proportional, I stands for integral, D stands for differential. For example, this is the place where my drone is. I want to commit, like make it go here. So if it goes there, it will not exactly come there because it is moving in this direction. There will be a action upon it, like a reaction on force upon it that will cause it to like deviate from its place. So P is the major motion that will coming. Then I is the integration of the D factor. D is the smallest variable that they will find out. For example, you need to move to 2 centimeters. So it will give you 2 millimeters, and then the I will integrate it to 2 centimeters, like 10 times the data given by them. And then it will make it a precision like placing there. So with the best like PIDs, they both will work same. With the basic configuration, X will work better than the H shape. Hope it was clear.
Yes, and plus shaped,
Okay, plus shape
plus
again,
shaped and X
like
shaped.
plus shape and X shape.
What is the difference between plus shaped and X shaped?
Okay. So in X shape, as I said, to gain a forward motion, you need to deliver a very long and very big distance. Hello, am I audible?
No, sir.
Hello. Now,
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir.
yeah, okay. So in X shape, like as I said, they are perfectly balanced. So what happens is these two motors can create more force and then it will tilt forward and move front. But in a plus type of configuration, let's say I tilt it to a plus like structure like this. So in this thing, these two motors will have to tilt more to like produce more torque. This has to produce more torque, like less torque, and this has to again produce more torque. So three motors will produce the momentum and it will move to the front. So plus shape is like plus shape was generally used in the earlier days when drones were in the like very beginning stage because it was a very easy configuration to work with. But again, this type of thing came up where these three motors are utilizing the power. So ultimately, not the best solution, not the let's say most efficient solution, but in some cases it may be the best solution that you have. Where you cannot use a X shape, you can use a plus shape. There are like differences. That is why these two have different type of configurations. Was it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Anyone else?
Yeah, Amit. So which drone is best for cargo delivery operations, like multi-rotor or fixed wing or
See, again,
hybrid?
talking in the terms of like design specific. If you have a very like for example, you need to deliver in between cities where you don't have easily like accessible land and stuff, where you don't have patches where you can have a landing pad. So you need to use a multi-rotor or a fixed wing VTOL, like a hybrid one. But let's say you are doing it in a rural area where you can have a landing spot, you can use a fixed wing. Fixed wing will be more efficient in any terms because of the aerodynamic stability. Because talking about these things, they don't have a lot of aerodynamics working on them. But talking about a fixed wing, they mostly work on aerodynamic forces, the four forces: lift, thrust, then drag, and weight. These four forces are the like basic forces. Can you show us a hybrid model? Okay, I'll show you the hybrid model again. So these are the four forces, and these help a fixed wing fly. But a multi-rotor, they generally don't have all these factors working together. Rather, they have a combination of these working. So talking about efficiency, a fixed wing will have the best efficiency. So doing remote deliveries in let's say places where they are like the place is not very much urbanized, you have a good terrain to land, you can use a fixed wing. It is like you need to deliver very long, and again you don't have patches to land, and it is in a hilly terrain. Let's say for example Uttarakhand in Nepal, you need to use a let's say a hybrid drone or VTOL, a fixed wing VTOL. And let's say in between cities, a fixed wing like multi-rotor will be the best thing. To show you example of hybrid drones, I'm presenting the screen. If you can see, okay. So this is what a hybrid drone looks like. I'll show you different photos. So, okay. Now, talking about this one, this is a tricopter configuration with a, you can see it has got the rotors, it has got the fixed wing things also. So it is also a hybrid. Talking about this one, you see motors just like drones, just like multi-rotors, and then this has got a fixed wing. So the fixed wing helps in the horizontal movement and to do a vertical takeoff and landing and to hover, the drone configuration is used or the multi-rotor configuration is used. More such things. If you have heard about tail sitters, I'll show you a tail sitter also. So this is what a tail sitter is. So why it is called a tail sitter? Because it sits on its tail, does a vertical takeoff, changes its motion to a fixed wing motion and moves straight. It can hover just like a drone, like this. It can take off like this, and then it will change its motion and move as a fixed wing. So this is how hybrid drones look. Any more questions? So how NASA drone work? If you're talking about DJI NASA, so DJI NASA is a flight controller. Like as every flight controller works, it takes the data, like the serial data from the ESCs, it changes it to the configuration. It checks as compared to the configuration, gives the required momentum, and then creates the motion. Like NASA is just a flight controller. It is not a specific drone. It is a flight controller. You can connect it to 100 type of drones and the 100 type of drones will work. It has got various configurations also. There is a Y6, there's a H-shaped quadcopter, there's a X-shaped quadcopter. Then you can have a few other configurations also with it. Any more questions? Which is the best material used for body of drones design perspective, PLA or ABS, and why? Talking in terms, I will prefer using PLA instead of ABS because, first of all, PLA is pretty cheap compared to ABS. And in terms of testing phases, I will always use PLA because PLA sets very easily, is easy to print. You don't have post printing like operations on PLA easily, like mostly. And then PLA is like easy to use. You don't have to preheat the bed mostly, and then there is no more issue with it. ABS again, then once my design is finalized, I'll try to use ABS and PLA both. I'll try to use ABS in the places that need to absorb the shocks, to absorb the like forces, and PLA in the general structure because PLA is again lighter than ABS. Any drone ports marked in Maharashtra or elsewhere? See, drone ports presently in India haven't been marked as such. Like in Maharashtra, there is no drone port, and in India, there is no drone port except for the military. Military has drone ports in Kalaikonda, in Port Bandar, and in few other places. In Visakhapatnam also. Again, in Chennai, I guess there is another port, but for civil thing we don't have. How much space is required, max? Uh, Sripura Sen, can you like repeat the question? How much space is required, max? Can you explain the question? For a drone port, okay. So for a drone port, you need to have at least something like a, zero point 0.5 square kilometer area. Like there is no specification presently. Like I'm not referring to particular specification, but in general, you need to have a zero point 0.5 square kilometer area because after all, it will have landing pads, it will have runways for takeoff of vertical, like for fixed wings, and then after that, you need to store them in hangars. So every drone will have a separate hangar. It will need a maintenance facility, so maintenance part will be also taken care of. So for a drone pod, you need a separate like air traffic controller. So those air traffic controllers will need to be placed there. So this is how like a point square or 5 square kilometer will be the must. Again, you can have more, but that is again subject to the matter how many drones are going to take part and which type of drones are going to take part.
So we will be having a session on the regulations, and in that there are specifics which have been provided by the government of India for at least India, and
Right.
so and then we'll have sessions on beyond visual line of sight flights as well, and some of the projects being presented. So we'll be having these discussions in detail there as well.
Right. So, any further questions? NASA launch. Acha, NASA. Okay. Launch a drone. It is the same manner as. No, see,
Amit,
NASA
can you read
used.
the whole? Can you read the whole question?
Yeah. So, Swarup Maiti has questioned, NASA launched a drone on Mars. Is it working as the same manner as normal drones work or not? So, talking about few things, the drone that NASA launched, if I'm not wrong, it's the name is Ingenuity. So what happens is it is just like a monocopter but with a dual thrust plate. So for example, if you have a simple drone where you mount a motor like this and then another propeller on it, both spin in the same direction but both have different thrust plates and different configuration. So what happens is like in like in Mars, you don't have as much as pressure as in like Earth. So air pressure is something that creates the lift there. To gain that, the rotors, they are not fixed rotors, they tilt. These rotors can tilt the propellers. So these have like a variable pitch propellers. The variable pitch, what happens is it increases the pitch to increase the lift to some extent. Like at the max, after the critical angle, it will decrease the lift surely. So to the some extent, it is like the extent is also created as per that. I'll show you a few photos of it also. So this is how is my screen visible to all of you? Okay, so this is how the NASA drone looks like. So there are two rotors, they spin and then they produce lift, like pretty much like every other drone. But how it is different is it is a monocopter coaxial configuration. So coaxial means two rotors counteract each other, but again it is a monocopter. So monocopter means there is one rotor that is providing the torque, and these two like rotate in different direction to counteract each other, and they have short splits so that they can increase and decrease the angle of attack so that the pitch will increase and again these can lift. And to counteract the air pressure and similar like air density is also very less, air pressure is very less to counter. But again, another fact, the gravity, the specific gravity and the gravity both are very less compared to the Earth's surface. So you don't need much efforts, but again, you need to build a very like efficient system to gain lift on Mars. Another question is that do you need ATC for drones less than 250 grams? See, less than 250 grams is exempted for flying under 15 meters
Amit,
of
can you
height. That is
stop
50.
sharing this particular slide?
Yeah, sure. So the question is like ATC for under 250 grams are nano categories that are like so under 250-gram drones are exempted from permissions from ATC, but again matter to the to the fact they need to fly under under 15 meters of height, and then that is approximately 50 feet, and they need to fly in line of sight. So if you are doing something except these things, you need exemptions. So you need to apply for a let's say permission to fly with a UAOP beyond line of sight, or else if you want to fly above that, you need to take permissions from the ATC.
I request you all to restrict your questions to anatomy of drones and what we have discussed today, because we'll be having all these topics in the future, and there would be separate sessions for regulations entirely dedicated to that. We'll be having sessions on BVLOS, on cargo drone flights, on different things. So let's stick to the topic today, please.
So I hope all questions are answered.
Okay, can we power drone by solar power? Can we have a drone in future which is powered by not by
Uh,
battery, by solar energy?
a definite yes, And not in future. Presently there have been few drones which are under trial, not in India, but let's say in some other countries. I don't remember which country, but they have a drone that is like you just need the initial battery for takeoff and stuff. Once it reaches the height, it is like the service ceiling of it, so it can continue the flight by taking the solar energy from that. And these drones are for efficient flights for long endurance, and these are for data connectivity. These drones are being used for data connectivity. Remember that. They are being in the test trials, but it is a very practical concept.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any more? Okay. Okay, Sushant has raised hand.
Yeah. I mean, so the different drones have different limitations, and there's
Right.
one drone, the DJI Matrix 600 drone is there, and
Right.
it is altitude locked to 500 meters only. I read it somewhere. So,
Right. Right.
how can we configure these drones, and to increase the altitude or flight time or
See,
distance?
the 500-meter lock is just because of the regulations, and then these frames have been tested for those like altitudes and performance. For example, there are many other substances that come into flight when you increase the altitude. You have a lesser air pressure there. You have a lesser air density there. So your motors need to like be capable enough to produce lift with the lesser air density. And then these drones have a maximum service ceiling, so they can go above the maximum service ceiling, but again these will become in like efficient in that case. Other than that, like talking about regulations, as regulated by FAR, these have been regulated to, I guess, as per FAR it is regulated to 500 meters. And to the category it falls, it can be like again there is a hack like it is a hack to get it unlocked for 500 meters, but then it should not be done because the limitations have been set according to that. Your batteries will start performing bad because less pressure can make your batteries puff. And other than that, you can like your batteries need to give more power. Your system will become less efficient. And then from a greater altitude, you like definitely cannot capture more data. Like there is always a best suitable altitude for that. Hope that answers your question.
So, can we configure this drone so that it doesn't hinder the performance of the drone? So, is there any
It can be
software or
configured. It can be configured. Like it is a combination of both software and hardware thing. You need to change the propellers. You need to have a lower kV motor with less average current input. But then, like it is a total process. Like it will take a full session to develop. Like say about that. So I'm like restricting to few points that can be like in a general way meaningful to everyone.
so if I want to reach to you about talk about it more, how can I contact you or reach you through
I guess my
email?
email ID is already provided in the links. Other than that, you can like directly find my email ID. I'll put it in the chat box also.
Okay. Thank you, Amit.
Do you take care of fragility of less than? Yes, 250 grams
Amit,
and below you do.
read the full
Hello.
question. Read the full question.
Okay. So there's a question, how do you take care of the fragility of less than 250 grams drone? Definitely a very good question because under 250 grams, you don't have a lot of, let's say, space to like a lot of not space, rather you are constrained to very limited weightage for your frames because you cannot like decrease weight from your flight controllers, from your cameras, from your motors, but definitely from your frame. So you prefer to take things that are lighter in weight. For example, there was a question where they have mentioned about ABS and PLA. So these are 3D printing materials. They are definitely very light. You can use carbon fiber and stuff. Again, web structures are used. For example, they can be full structures, but from inside they are hollow. And sometimes they are webbed, like they are cut into sections. So to decrease the weight, whereas keeping the overall strength required the same. Hope that answers that question.
I want to ask a question. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Hello.
So, how do we know the best size of a propeller for our drone? What size is best for our
Uh,
drone?
See, your propeller has to be chosen as per your motor. For example, you have a very fast spinning motor. Doesn't mean like you put a 10 propeller on a very fast spinning motor, something like a 3500 kV, something like a 4000 kV, and it will give you the best performance because those motors spin at a very high RPM. They take a lot of current, so they need to have a smaller propeller, maybe a higher angle of attack, maybe a higher pitch, but at least they need to have a smaller propeller. A very high, like the higher the kV, the propeller size decreases. Every motor has got ratings of the propeller that you can choose for it. For example, I'll say something that DJI does. DJI takes a motor with a lower kV and puts a bigger propeller in it. And they have very efficient system, 30 minutes of flight, like not an easy thing to attain always. And then you see racing drones and stuff, they have 5 to 7 minutes of flight because it is all about power. And then you have very high, like you need a fast flying drone instead of a very stable and very like efficient drone.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I guess no more questions. So I hand it over to Dr. Ruchi for further proceeding.
Thank you so much, Amit, for your generous presentation. And thank you, everyone, for such beautiful interaction with us. And this kind of makes us super interested in bringing amazing presenters to you and keep this momentum going. Thank you so much. And we will have some more sessions on the technology itself, a couple of more sessions on more than that. And we would be having some dedicated sessions on UTM as well, on flight controllers, and we would be having some drone operations as well. So you will have more of these technical sessions and look forward to that as well. I'll stop the recording and then we'll go on to discuss about the class itself.